Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some Entitled Parents. Our first story today comes to us from D's Nuts Premium. Why wouldn't you donate your eggs to a good Christian woman like me? Let's jump right in. New to Reddit, so excuse me if I get anything wrong, still getting used to the app. I had the crappiest week, and of course, it had to get even worse. I'm a dermatology resident, and around a week ago, I was working after hours at a cosmetic skin clinic. We do cosmetic procedures like Botox and such. Entitled parent 48 female enters and brings along her husband and teen daughter. One of the nurses approaches her and lets her know that only the one person who came to the appointment is allowed to come in. She demands to bring both of them in with her because she is afraid of needles and she knows the owner of the skin clinic, so it should be alright. The nurse keeps trying to reason with her, but she dismisses it with a weird hand gesture and enters one of the consultation rooms. The clinic only opens when we have a couple patients booked due to COVID, so we are currently understaffed. My coworker and I look at each other and try to debate on who should go see her since in her booking, she hasn't specified which doctor she previously consulted with. After losing a game of rock, paper, scissors, I dreadfully start getting masked to enter the room. As I enter the room, Entitled Parent and hubby are in a heated fight on whether or not Entitled Parent's lips are too big and the teenager is texting on her phone. I subtly clear my throat. Entitled Parents finally shut the F up and with her Karen voice says, "You're not Dr. So-and-so. I only trust Dr. So-and-so to touch my face." I take a deep breath and say, "Mrs. EP, when you book the appointment, you have to mention which doctor you prefer to have, since they only come in if they have patients lined up on that day." She looks at me like, "What?" After some back and forth of her demanding I call the owner and me letting her know I can reschedule her appointment for a later date with the doctor she prefers to have, she calms down and agrees to let me pump her face with more filler and Botox. We make casual conversation and the teen asks, "Why did you choose to become a skin doctor?" To be honest, the answer is peer pressure and money, but I went ahead and explained that both my parents are doctors, and growing up, they'd always push my siblings and I to become doctors too. Then I decided to get a low-stress job that gave me freedom outside of work, and dermatology seemed to be the best option. She seemed very interested and we kept chatting while her mother closely examines her face to check if she's content, looking like a Walmart Kardashian or not. All of a sudden, the husband starts to ask more questions about my family, where they work, and if any of them were sick, which seemed odd, so I just said no and continued talking to the daughter. Entitled Parent and husband start to whisper to each other while casually glancing at me as I wash my hands to get ready with the other procedure she came in for. Entitled Mother starts asking very odd and personal questions, which I dismissively answer with a word or two because at this point I feel very uncomfortable. And here it comes. Nothing in my life mentally prepared me for this. Mrs. Entitled Parent says her sister had an ovarian teratoma and had to get it laparoscopically removed. She had always dreamed of having kids and was wondering if I could donate my eggs. I was shocked to say the least because I never imagined that a complete stranger would ask me for something like this. I told her I was sorry for her sister and that there were places where she can review a bunch of egg donors so she can carefully review and decide what kind of egg donor she most likely wanted to use. She reassures me saying that her sister would for sure like me, and since I'm from a family of doctors, I have no diseases in my family and have great thick hair, she says as she grabs my hair, so she knows the child will be both smart and healthy. I tell her I am not interested in the offer and that I'm sure she could easily find a donor with even better qualities, but she insisted I take her number and consider donating to a poor Christian woman who loves children as much as she loves God. I take the number so she could stop talking and finally exit the room and the nurses could take over. I immediately throw the number away and try to forget about this strange incident. I get scheduled for a consultation yesterday with a woman called Megan, who's not a previous patient of mine, but has specifically requested for me, which is odd since I hardly get any specific requests from patients to have me since I'm still a resident. Nevertheless, I go in for the consultation, and to my horror, entitled parent and soon-to-be entitled parent Megan approach me with a high-pitched, "Hi, Dr. OP, how nice to see you again." And this is when I knew I was going to have a nightmare consultation scheduled that I couldn't run away from. Megan is a 37-year-old woman who claims to be a God-fearing housewife with a dream to mother a child, and that her sister had filled her in on all details and even stalked me on Facebook and found my parents and sisters too. Before she keeps rambling on, I let her know that I have already told entitled parent that I am not interested in donating my eggs and ask her what she wanted to get done to her skin. She acts confused and tells me, "But you would be doing a good deed by donating an egg to a woman who had ovaries ripped away from her body," and reminds me that as a doctor and a Christian myself, as she found out through my dad's Facebook, I should be following the word of God and help her out. I have nothing against donating eggs. I think it's honorable to help someone in need to have a kid, but I don't want children. I don't know these women, and I'm not going through the whole procedure of extracting an egg for someone I hardly even know. Also, I don't want a child of mine out there in the world. I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. I let her know I have no desire to donate my eggs and suggest her a clinic that handles issues regarding infertility and such, and ask her again what she came in for. Entitled parent and Megan look at me perplexed. They can't believe a woman would not want to spread her legs, go through a painful procedure to extract an egg that is to be donated to a complete stranger. How can you say that? Aren't you a feminist? Aren't you a doctor? Aren't you a Christian? Where are your morals? Miss Megan, I don't personally know you. This is a skin and cosmetic clinic. If you need a consultation for infertility, you should go to a fertility clinic, I say as I start to stand up. Dr. OP, you're not acting like a good Christian woman would, entitled parent says. And I just remind her that this is a place of business, and if she's not interested in a consultation for skin or cosmetic procedures, she can go ahead and leave. Entitled parent starts yelling loudly very unchristian words at me, letting me know that Satan will come for me because I have turned down God's will. I call my male nurse and he talks to her and lets her know she needs to leave the clinic immediately or the police would be called. The entitled parent's sisters leave as they curse me out. Isn't life great sometimes? These people sound absolutely crazy and absolutely desperate, and you don't know what measures they're going to go to. OP mentioned in an edit that they were messaging her on Facebook from many different accounts. OP, this is where you get that restraining order started because you don't want these people causing any more trouble in your life. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from N64 Throwaway. Uncle stole my N64 for my cousin. Refused to return it till my dad threatened to call the police. Let's jump right in. This happened back in 1999, and a similar story reminded me of it. My uncle was always a piece of work, and not just a blatant thief at times, but a major cheapskate to boot. When I was 13 back in 1999, I got a brand new N64 for my birthday with some used cartridges of both Mario 64 and Mario Kart to go with it. My cousin, who was a complete at the time brat, was all over it the next time he came to visit. The kid really wasn't so bad, but he'd get violent if he lost at a game or didn't get something he wanted. I was playing my N64 in my room when he asked to come in. I didn't mind and figured I could play against him at Mario Kart. We played the first circuit and I dominated at 100cc, while he came in last each time. By the fourth race at the desert level, he totally lost it, crying that I wouldn't let him win, and then started punching me. The kid was like 7, but he liked to aim for the crotch. He just barely missed hitting me in the junk, so I dragged him out of my room. When I told my uncle what my cousin had done, his response was, "So, why didn't you just let him win?" And I told him there's no way I could have, because even if I wasn't playing, he never came even close to being anywhere but last. My uncle just sneered and said, "No excuses, he's little and you should let him win." So I suggested a compromise of letting my cousin play by himself so he could get in some practice at the game. Everyone agreed and I thought that'd be that. But even when I set it to 50cc, my little cousin couldn't do any better than 6th place on any race. He went ape while playing Toad's Turnpike and threw the controller against the wall. I was mad, but tried to stay patient with him by saying he just needed some more practice. Little cousin said he couldn't practice because he didn't have an N64 at home because his dad won't buy him one. I said I was sorry about that and decided it was time to shut the game off because I didn't want to risk something getting broken. My little cousin went crying to his dad that he wanted an N64, and he just told him that they didn't have the money. Yet Uncle was buying things like beer, cigarettes, and lottery tickets almost daily. So I figured that was it, and they left not long later. But the next time I went back to my room, I noticed that my N64 was gone. I immediately called my parents. My dad was furious, and my mom tried to make excuses for her brother because he was a single father. But my dad packed us all into his old station wagon, and we drove to my uncle's house. My dad pounded on my uncle's door until he finally opened it. Inside, we could hear little cousin playing my Mario Kart game. My dad demanded they return the games and console immediately. My uncle actually denied having it till we pointed out we could hear it, after which he just slammed the door in our faces. My father pounded on the door again and threatened to call the police if he didn't return the N64, and then yelled that he still had the receipts so police could tell it was mine. That's when the N64 stopped playing and I heard little cousin start screaming. My uncle came out with the N64, the 2 games, cords, and both controllers in a plastic bag and practically shoved it in my hands, then slammed his door shut again. Little cousin was still screaming and trying to open the door, but my uncle wouldn't let him out. I checked everything in the car, and one of the controller's joysticks had actually been broken. My parents apologized to me and said that my uncle wouldn't be welcome in our house again for some time. Then, they took me to the local game store and bought a replacement controller for me. It was red, so that was a nice upgrade over the previous gray one. A few months later, my uncle was jailed for trying to steal from a store. Don't remember what he tried to take, but my mother decided to file a petition for custody of my cousin without asking my father. That led to a big argument, but we ended up taking in my little cousin anyway, and over the next year or so, unspoiled him. His father never bothered to come back for him, so he sort of became like my little brother, and now he's a pretty good guy. He's still terrible at Mario Kart though. So the uncle went to jail and the cousin became like a brother, and you can definitely tell that you treat him like a brother because of the last sentence. Love this story, really well written, OP. Our last story today comes to us from MortalWombay, entitled Dad Stole My Money. Let's jump right in. This happened about 2 decades ago, and I still remember it as one of the most unfair things that my dad did to me. I have since vowed never to act this way to my own kids. When I was 15, I was struggling with school. I was terrible at math and much preferred to spend my time with girls or playing video games. I had a car given to me by my grandfather, a 1990s Buick Century, great car, steered like a boat. I also had a habit of sneaking out and or leaving stuff to the last minute. Big procrastination energy, but come on, that's what being a teenager is about. Enjoy your youth, kids. So I was doing really bad in math, and when I got my report card to bring home, I found out I got a C-. Earlier, my parents had told me that I was smart and should never get less than a B, or I'd be in trouble. So I lied. I told my parents I got all B's or better, my other grades were better, and just never gave them my report card. When the spring semester rolled around, crap got real. There were 2 math classes at my school, the beginner and advanced classes. My parents learned I was in the beginner class and ended up driving to the school to find out why. Of course, they found out about my fall semester's grade and were pissed. In my house growing up, my mom was the one you didn't want angry. I never felt so bad as I did when she found out I lied to her. She wasn't mad for long, just disappointed. Unfortunately, upsetting my mom just set my dad off. My dad went into that mode where he's just screaming and yelling to the point where spit was flying in my face. He turned purple. It wasn't pretty. He got into that mode where it wasn't about me saying sorry, it was about seeing me be hurt. So when I apologized, that wasn't enough. He wanted me to suffer. So here's what happened. He emptied my bank account, everything I'd saved all summer, over $2,000. I'd worked several jobs. He took my car, he smashed my computer, and he personally made sure I didn't have a girl over for the whole spring. If he ever caught me doing anything before my homework was done, he would take another $100 as an IOU, meaning any money I earned would go straight to him. This kept up until the end of spring semester when I got a B in math. If you were to ask me as an adult why I don't lie, I'd tell you honestly, it is 100% more to do with the expression on my mom's face when she was disappointed than anything my dad did to me. When I think about my dad during that time, his smug expression whenever he commented on how I couldn't go on dates because of him, or couldn't hang out with my friends, also him, I don't think, hey, lying is bad. I think, my dad ruined 6 months of my life because he's a petty butthole. Okay, so I could understand a grounding, I could understand not having the car for a little while, or maybe not having access to a computer for a little while, but the punishment in this case very much so outweighed the crime. Your dad definitely was a butthole, and I'm glad you were able to get away from him. It's stories like these we need to remember when we're dealing with our own children, because we don't want our children to turn around in 20, 30 years and go, yeah, my parents, they were the biggest buttholes. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.